Well, hello and welcome, everyone. It's Science Week, and you are very welcome to the Festival of Farming and Food. My name is Jonathan McCrea. We've been having a fantastic week, and it is so great to have all of you, boys and girls from classes all up and down the country, to join us today. All of these events are free, with thanks to Science Foundation Ireland and Teagasc as part of Science Week. And we're going to be here for the next hour speaking with scientists from Teagasc Moorepark in County Cork. Students and staff are here today to talk about some of the great work they're doing in the area of some of our favorite dairy foods like milk, cheese, and yogurt. So teachers, please post your questions. We had so many of them last year. We're going to try and beat 2,000 questions, because that's what we had last year, would you believe? We almost broke Zoom. So we want all of your questions in the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. But before you post, please make sure you let us know what the name of the class is and where you are in the country. So we need to hear that as well. Really excited to get all of your questions. So if you have a question about milk, cheese, or yogurt, how they're made, or anything to do with it, please do let us know. We also want to see photographs from your classroom. So if you're on social, let us know that you're watching. Tag us on Teagasc and Teagasc Food across any social media that you have. Before we introduce you to our scientists doing really interesting research in the area of dairy products, we're going to show you a short video kind of detailing some of the work that we're doing here. And then we're going to get to your questions and answers. So watch the video, sit back and relax, and then get your questions into us as quick as you can. And we'll get to as many of them as we can. Great to have you. Roll the tape, please.
Why is milk good for us?
Milk is produced to feed newborns and has often been called a complete food. But why is it called a complete food? And what makes milk so good for us? Babies and newborn calves need a source of food that will help them grow and stay healthy, especially because newborns grow so quickly. Milk has fats, proteins, and a sugar known as lactose. They give us lots of energy for growth. Vitamins and minerals are also in milk, which are very important for us. For example, B vitamins, which help us get energy from food and helps our immune system, which protects us from getting sick.
What is bacteria?
Bacteria are among the smallest living things in the world. They just have one cell. Humans have about 3 trillion cells. Because they're so small, we can only see them by looking at them through a microscope. But even though they are very tiny, bacteria come in many different shapes and types. Some of them can be very good for us, but others can make us sick. We can study bacteria by growing them on something called agar plates. These are circular plates with all the nutrients, the food that the bacteria needs to grow. Eventually, the bacteria cells will multiply, and we'll be able to see them as spots on the plates. But during the milking or during transport to the co-op, bacteria from different places like the teat, the milking equipment, the air, the water, and the soil, bacteria can't find their way into the milk.
What does pasteurized mean?
Pasteurization is the process that helps keep milk fresh and safer for longer. It's named after Louis Pasteur, who 150 years ago discovered that bacteria could make food go bad and also make us very sick. Although our farms and milking parlors are a lot cleaner and safer today, we still need to use pasteurization to keep milk safe and fresh for longer. This means that in the creamery, the milk is heated to 72 degrees for 15 seconds. That's slower than the temperature in a boiling kettle, but still hot enough to destroy most of the bacteria in the milk. Remember though, pasteurization reduces the number of microorganisms in milk, but it does not kill them all. So keep your milk in the fridge so that the surviving microorganisms do not multiply.
How much protein's in milk?
There is approximately 3.4 grams of protein in a glass of milk. Proteins are very important for us. They help us grow and they help us repair and build muscle. Caseins and whey proteins are the two main proteins in milk. In this experiment, I will separate out one of these proteins in milk. I will separate the caseins. When I add an acid to the milk, we see that the milk begins to change. Eventually, what we see is two different materials begin to appear, a yellowish liquid and a white solid material. The white solid material are the caseins. Caseins are very important for us. They provide us with protein, which are important for our muscle and cells, but they also hold calcium and phosphorus. Calcium and phosphorus help us grow strong bones and strong teeth. In the Irish diet, we get a lot of calcium from milk, yogurt, and cheese.
How do you make cheese?
We can make cheese at home or in a lab or in a factory. So we bring milk into the milk vat and heat it up to 73 degrees for 15 seconds. After pasteurizing the milk, we bring some starter bacteria and rennet into the milk. So when we add starter bacteria and rennet, which is a protein, it will break the milk into two parts, the curds and the whey. The curds are solid, clumpy pieces made from casein, the same protein that Sean talked about earlier, and the liquid part is the whey. Afterward, we cut the curds, cook them, and drain the liquid whey. Now milk turns into a very solid curd. Then we can melt the curd and sprinkle salt on them, pressing them and making them into cheddar cheese blocks. We usually have to put them in a storage room for a couple of months for bacteria to give cheese the fantastic flavor, and then it is ready to eat.
Why is cheese hard, soft, or stretchy?
So now we have some cheeses in the lab. You may have a question, why some of the cheeses are hard and some of the other cheeses are soft? The reason is how much water is there in a cheese. So the more water there is, the softer the cheese can be. Some cheese can be stretchy, like mozzarella, but some other cheeses, like cheddar, are not very stretchy. Why is that? Because when we make mozzarella cheese, the cooking and kneading procedures of the curd can open proteins and turns them into long strands. Then it becomes stretchy. In our lab, we use a texture analyzer to measure how stretchy a cheese can be.
How do you make low-fat milk?
If you went into the shop and walked down to the aisle with the fridges where the milk is, what do you normally see alongside them? That's right, you normally see cartons of cream. In milk, the fat is called cream, and because it is lighter, it will float to the top. But if the milk is left in a big tank, it would take a long time for all the fat to float to the top. So instead, we use special pieces of equipment called separators that spin really fast in circles. This forces the lighter fat to float to the top quicker so it can be removed from the milk. As we can see in this test tube, after spinning it in circles really fast using this instrument. If I put water into this bucket and spin it around in a circle really fast, then the water should stay in the bucket, I hope. And this is because of these same forces. Let me show you, and I hope this time I don't end up getting soaked. And that is how low-fat milk is made, by spinning it around really quick and making the cream separate.
How do you make yogurt?
Yogurt is made using a process known as fermentation. Fermentation is also used to make cheese, as Leigh explained earlier. For yogurt fermentation, we use a different type of starter bacteria, and we don't need to add rennet like in cheese. To start yogurt fermentations, starter bacteria are selected and added to milk. The starter bacteria, as they grow in milk, produce lactic acid. It's this acid that changes milk from a liquid to a more solid yogurt. We measure this acid in the lab using something called a pH meter. So the smaller the number on the pH meter, the more the acid that has been made by the bacteria. After the yogurt is done, we can add fruit and cereals for more flavor.
Why do cheese and butter last longer in the fridge than milk?
When milk is not stored properly in the fridge or for a very long time, the bacteria in the milk can grow quickly and produce many kinds of substances that break down the milk and make it taste and smell bad. Cheese lasts longer because the bacteria used to make cheese actually helps to keep it safe and last longer. This is because the lactic acid made by the bacteria stop other bad bacteria from growing as quickly as they do in milk. Butter is made by churning or mixing cream until it becomes semi-solid. Cream is a mixture mixed of tiny water droplets and fat droplets along with protein. When we churn cream quickly and with strong hands, the fat droplets stick together, eventually making a solid lump that is butter. The leftover liquid is called buttermilk and is used in baking bread. The fat droplets in butter is what makes it last longer because it makes it very difficult for bacteria to grow in it. So this is why cheese and butter last longer in the fridge than milk.
What's the hardest thing you can make from milk?
It is called milk plastic, a plastic made from milk. We can try it at home. Firstly, we add some hot milk into a mug and add 4 teaspoons of white vinegar. You should see the milk form white clumps. They are called curds, like what we see in the cheese making. Then we mix the mug slowly with a spoon for a few seconds. Stack 4 layers of paper towels on the table. We wait until the milk and vinegar mixture has cooled a bit, and then use a spoon to scoop out the curds. Collect as many curds as you can and put them on top of the paper towel stack. Fold the edges of the paper towel stack over the curds and press down on them to absorb excess liquid. Use extra paper towels if needed to soak up the remaining moisture. Then we knead all the curds together into a ball as if it were dough. What you have in your hands is milk plastic. If you want to use the milk plastic to make something like a button, you can color, shape, or mold it now and leave it to dry on paper towels for at least 2 days. Once the pieces are dried, they become very hard, like this one.
That was so good, wasn't it? So lots of questions coming in. Keep them coming in. Don't forget to tell us what the name of your school is and where you are in the country. So I'm going to welcome some of the stars of that video. Would you believe for some of them that was their first time doing TV? Isn't that unbelievable? We have Lei Deng, who studies all things cheese. We have Sean Wren. He studies the chemistry of milk. We also have Meghana Srinivas, who studies the bacteria that are in some of our favorite foods. And last but not least, we have Antonio Lorenco, who also studies bacteria, especially the bacteria that makes our food go good or bad. We're also joined by Marin Egan, who is the communications officer for research at Teagasc Moorepark. And she's going to be behind the scenes, gathering all your questions, taking out all the rude words that your teachers are putting in and just giving us good questions. So quick shout out to Scoil Mhuire, Mount Sackville in Chapel Is It in County Dublin, and to Miss Costello's class in Scoil San Tressa in Mount Marion in County Dublin. You have sent in some questions. We're going to get to those in a second. But first, Sean, what kind of tests do you do on milk?
Hi, Jonathan. We do quite a lot of tests on milk, all different ones depending on what we need to do. But typically what we could do is we would like to see how much water might be in the milk. So we might put it into this special piece of equipment that's like an oven, it boils off the water, and we are left with the solid parts and the water, and then we can tell how much water is in the milk. We also might check how much fat is in it, so we can separate the different parts of milk by spinning it around in circles. The lighter parts will float to the top, the heavier down to the bottom. And we can test for proteins and stuff like lactose, which is the sugar in milk, by sticking in through a column, a little tube. It sticks to the inside of it, and then we can tell how much sugar is in the milk.
You know a lot about milk, Sean. Like if I were to give you a glass of white paint and a glass of milk, and just by looking at it, would you be able to tell what was milk and what was paint?
I hope so. I hope so.
What is the best type of cheese to put on a pizza?
Hi, Jonathan. It will be mozzarella because it's very stretchy and it can melt on the pizza when you bake it.
Do you ever have to go and say, unfortunately, my experiment has failed because I've eaten all the delicious cheese? Does that ever happen?
It could be.
Do you ever get to taste the cheese you're working on?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And what's your favorite type of cheese?
My favorite type of cheese is actually blue cheese.
Yeah, I like blue cheese as well. We're going to talk about blue cheese because kids are very interested in blue cheese. And I thought that plastic thing you had was amazing, making our own plastic. I might try that later. Antonio, if pasteurizing kills the bacteria in milk, why do we need to keep it in the fridge? You're muted there, Antonio. We did go through this in rehearsals, folks.
Oh Jesus! If I had a penny for every time I'm muted when I start talking. But anyways, so the milk does go bad even though it gets pasteurized, because the pasteurization does not kill all the microorganisms in there. It just reduces the number of the microorganisms. So the remaining ones will start multiplying even at lower temperatures like the fridge.
And how do they multiply? Is it like how people multiply, or is it different?
Oh no, that's the funny part about the microorganisms. Yeah, they basically, out of one cell, it divides it in two cells, and then out of those two cells, each one of them will divide in two. So even if when you start with low numbers, they increase fast.
Yeah,
exponentially. That's how it is.
Exponentially.
That's fast. Absolutely.
That is fast.
Quite kind of like something going viral on Twitter.
Yeah.
Megana, why does yogurt go sour?
Yeah, so actually fermentation is used to make yogurt. So they use bacteria in it, and that's what converts, they add bacteria to milk, and that's what converts the milk to yogurt. So it's lactic acid that's produced that gives, yogurt the nice flavor that you want. But if it's left for too long, if you don't store it in the fridge, or like if you leave it out for too long or just ferment it for too long, there's too much lactic acid that's produced, and that's what gives you that sour flavor.
Yeah. And is it okay to just try it even if it's gone off, just to give it a go and see? Because sometimes it still tastes good even if it's a couple of days after.
Yeah, within maybe a few days, not if you've left it out for too long, but if you keep it in the fridge and if it's just a few, a little sour, it's okay. But I say actually, if it's sour, don't have it. If you think it looks bad, don't have it. Yeah.
Okay. I consider myself an adventurer in that aspect. Okay, let's see what questions we have in the chat. So I said, Skull, we're Mount Sackville and Chapel Lizard. Hello to you guys. Thanks for watching. They have a couple of questions. Sean, what temperature is milk when it comes out of cows?
Well, it's the temperature of the cow, so it'll be around 38 degrees Celsius. And that makes sense because if it's the same temperature as it was in the fridge, I'm pretty sure the cow will be pretty cold.
And do cows ever get hot? Would they ever go, would a cow ever be 78 degrees?
If the cow was sick, it could be warmer, but I
Right.
mean, you wouldn't want to be drinking the milk from a sick cow, I assume.
No, big time. So Le, why is blue cheese so smelly?
So like Antonia said earlier, blue cheese is so smelly because there are still bacteria growing in cheese. So when we make cheese, the pasteurization process will kill most of them. But when we make blue cheese, we actually put some extra mold into it. So that makes cheese grows very smelly, but it's very tasty.
So we add bacteria and we add mold to our food, and that makes it delicious. Why don't we just eat mold and bacteria?
Because lots of mold and bacteria are very bad for our health,
Right.
but only a few of them can make food very delicious. So you need to be very careful about those things.
Just a teaspoon in. That's a joke. Don't put a teaspoon of bacteria in your food. Megana, how come some dairy products are solid and how come some are liquid? Like, how does that work?
So it basically depends on the process that's there. So some dairy products like cheese, they involve like drying, and like Leigh was explaining, they involve like brining and all of that. So where you take out the solid part. But in other cases, like in yogurt, it's the bacteria that produce different substances that
Right.
kind of change it from a solid state to a more liquid state over time.
Do you drink a lot of yogurt, Megana?
Yes, I do. I'm a fan of yogurt.
What's your favorite? Do you have flavor, or do you drink natural yogurt?
I do drink both. I like natural yogurt as well, but I also really like berry, like strawberry flavored yogurt.
Amazing. You must have loads of free yogurt as part of this job. Miss Costello class in school, San Trasa in Mount Marion say, do you put the holes in cheese or do they occur naturally? So that sounds like a lot. That's an interesting job to put the holes in cheese.
We actually don't put holes in cheese. The holes in cheese are made from the bacteria that grows in cheese when we put them on the shelf.
Okay. And where do the holes come from?
From the gases that are made from the bacteria.
Oh, gases and bacteria and mold. I mean, like, it's kind of funny that all the things that we're supposed to think are like not nice are actually making really delicious food. I'm
Yes,
a big
indeed.
cheese fan, in case you hadn't guessed. Love my cheese. Even moved to France for a while just to eat all of their cheeses. Okay, we have people from Barnatra National School in Belmullet. Is milk from particular cows used to make particular cheeses? Like, do we have blue cows for blue cheese and Swiss cows for Swiss cheese? Like,
Well, we don't actually use blue cows for blue cheese, but we do have different kinds of cows. So most of the cows produce basically the same milk, same protein content, fat content, and other nutrients. There is only a slight difference between different cows and different season in different regions. So yeah, we make cheese from basically the same milk.
very good. This is for Sean. What happens if you don't milk a cow? Does the milk go off inside the cow? That's from 6th class Ballyhale.
No, it wouldn't go off inside the cow, but it wouldn't be comfortable for the cow because you haven't introduced anything externally to make it go off. But I mean, it wouldn't be comfortable for the cow. The cow would be quite stressed if you left the milk in there all the time. Plus, as well, I'm sure that the baby calf would want to be getting that milk if it was hungry enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really practical for us to just have cows in the back garden for everybody. You know, especially if you have an apartment or something, but like you'll have fresh milk all the time whenever you want it.
I don't think your neighbor would appreciate a cow mooing at 6 a.m.
No, certainly not. So this is from Megana, and this is from Matilda in 2nd class in Candistown National School. Hello, Matilda. Do goats make butter?
Oh yeah, so in most cases, at least that I know of, I do not know of butter that's made from goat milk, but I guess somebody else would be better qualified to answer this question.
Anybody know? Do goats make butter? I mean, theoretically, they must be able to, right?
Yeah.
And Antonio?
Yeah. That there is butter from goat's milk. It actually tastes different, as does the cheese, just because of the type of fat that is in the goat's milk. It's slightly different from the cows. So yeah, but you can definitely make the butter.
My son came home from school and he had, like, I don't know if this is real. You might tell me if this is real, Antonio. He had like just a clear plastic canister of milk, and he just shook it, and he shook it and shook it and shook it and shook it, and then there was some butter inside. And I don't know if that's actually, was he tricking me, or can you actually do that? And if so, could I do that with goat's milk and make goat's butter?
Out of the milk, I'm guessing you have to shake it a lot. But I mean,
he shaked it a lot.
Well, I would suspect instead of milk, it has cream, like Sean was explaining before. And basically, the process of making the butter is you just shake the butter, the cream extensively, and it starts
Maybe it
clumping
was
together.
cream. Maybe it was cream he had. If you just shake a canister of cream, do you make butter?
Oh, you do,
Right?
yeah.
Ah, okay, that's what he had. So could I do that with goat's milk then?
Oh, yeah, it will work.
That's what I'm going to do. That's my afternoon sorted. Okay, we have a question in from Mel in National School, Mel National School, Drogheda, and the question is, how long does it take to make cheddar cheese?
Well, it usually takes several months to make cheddar cheese because we need that time to build a fantastic flavor so that the bacteria ferment the protein, the fat, and sugar in cheese to make very nice taste.
Very good. And this is a question that no one can answer. This is one of the greatest mysteries of dairy production. Why is milk white? Rossmore National School have asked. Who wants to pretend they know?
I can take that one.
Sean?
So when light hits surface, it'll bounce off everything, and that's why we can see things. So inside milk, you have these proteins that are floating around. They're like footballs floating inside the water, inside the milk. So when the light hits off these footballs, it kind of bounces and scatters off them and gets refracted, is what it's called. It's refracted back. So that's why the milk looks white.
That sounds reasonable. That sounds like that probably is true. Okay, I'll give it to you, Sean. Antonio, what are the names of some good bacteria and what are the names of some bad bacteria? That's from Harry in Senior Inference in Clockrow National School. Hi, Harry.
Oh, I'll leave the good bacteria for Magana to reply. She's more into the good ones. I'm more into the bad ones.
Okay.
So like there's a bad, like usually very associated to milk and to cheese, bad bacteria that's like, it's called Listeria monocytogenes. You can talk about Staphylococcus aureus. I don't know, like Escherichia coli.
What makes them bad? Like, do they wear leather jackets and drive motorbikes, or what makes them bad bacteria?
That would just make them look cool. No, I mean, they will either produce compounds that will be bad for you, will just make you go sick.
Yeah.
Or by themselves, they would be able to infect the cells in your intestine, and then there's a whole cascade of bad stuff happening.
We don't want that.
Yeah, you don't want to go in there.
So if there's bad bacteria, then there must be good bacteria. What makes them good, Magana? Do they do a lot of work for charity, or what's the story?
Apart from doing work, no. So basically, they produce a lot of good stuff, a lot of healthy stuff. So bacteria can produce a variety of compounds, and some of them help with digestion. When they're having fermented foods, they can help with digestion. They can help with, also some of them are known to have an effect on your immunity and can help improve immunity. They can help overall, like your gut. There are other bacteria also present in your gut. So they also have like a cooperative relationship between each other. So they can help improve the overall functioning of your gut system. And there are also things related to how they can have an effect on your overall well-being and your health. So
wow, I want to put some more bacteria on my food again. Can I do that, Magana? Is that possible? But good bacteria, just the good stuff.
Do you know which ones you should, like, usually in the lab, we know which bacteria we're using, but like it's really well studied and really well characterized. So when you're making fermentations, usually you know the bacteria that's in there, and you also study the types of compounds that are there. So it's only the bacteria that have been well studied and known to be good that are added in fermentation.
Okay, so I shouldn't experiment. Sean says, this is for Sean from James. What causes the water to stay in the bucket when it's spinning? You kind of explained that, but maybe do it again.
So what happens is when the water's in the bucket, there's this thing called, now it's a big fancy word, but it's called centripetal forces. And all that is that when you're spinning the bucket around in circles, it's being pushed back into the bucket because of these forces. And like I said in the video, that's how we make the low fat. It's the same idea.
And there's nothing to do with centipedes. Sean, what makes a person lactose intolerant? That's from Rang Akuig in St. Mary's Senior School, Dunmanway. Hi, guys.
Well, it's an enzyme that some people lack. And that enzyme, if you can imagine, it's like a little scissors that cuts up the sugar so that you can digest it. But when you don't have that enzyme, or some people lose the activity of that enzyme, the scissors-like enzyme, that cuts up the sugar. Then the sugar starts to kind of get acted on by bacteria, and it causes discomfort in the stomach for people who are lactose intolerant.
And that's why you should never run with an enzyme in your hand. I have Bullock National School in 6th class Cork. Can you buy rennet to make cheese in school? Would it be safe to eat?
I think you can, but you need to be very careful with it because cheese production is a very long process, and they have a lot of different steps, and it's difficult to control, especially the fermentation process that you have to control the temperature, you have to control the pH and other stuff. So I wouldn't recommend you to buy a rennet, make cheese at school, but what you can do is trying to make a mozzarella type of cheese at home, just using some citric acid. That is much safer.
Yeah, I would say don't experiment making your own cheese at home without the supervision of a parent and one of our Teagasc scientists who are available whenever you want to help you make cheese. What about the bacteria that you use? Can you use any bacteria, because sometimes you hear about, when teenagers get smelly, that there's bacteria underneath their armpits. Could you use that to make cheese?
No, definitely not, because you don't know that if those bacteria are safe or not. So when we make cheese, the bacteria that we put in cheese to get it fermented is called starter. So it's a specific or 2-3 types of cheese, three types of bacteria that can actually produce nice things in cheese, not the bad stuff.
Little Miss Muffet sat in her tuffet eating her curds and whey. Should she have just thrown the whey out and used the curds to make milk?
You can actually use the whey when we process the cheese. A lot of whey are going to the drain in the past, but now we can use the whey to make something else. So in the cheese factory, when they make cheese, so the whey goes into a different stream, and then they dry them into a powder. Then the powder can be applied to some cookies and some bread and other stuff.
Okay, so she was a sort of a visionary in her way, Little Miss Muffet, underappreciated in her time. The
Jonathan,
plastic.
sorry, may I throw something in there? Actually,
Please.
It's not very common here in Ireland, but you can actually make some sort of cheese using the whey. Like as Sean was mentioning, like you can make the separation between the caseins with the acids, but you can also separate from the liquids the proteins in the whey by heating that liquid, and then you can make a sort of cheese out of that.
Potentially Miss Muffet was a former researcher at Teagasc in her early days as well. Is the plastic that you made out of milk, is that edible? That's from Teagasc National School, 5th and 6th class. Miss Grant is the teacher. Hi, Miss Grant, and hi, guys. How are you?
Hi. The milk plastic that I made in the video can be very hard. I wouldn't recommend you to bite on it or eat it, because
don't eat any plastic would be,
no.
I mean, that's just a rule I tend to go by.
So those plastic is actually made of casing, like what we have seen in the video in cheese production. So those casing chain together to become a polymer, which is a long chain of hundreds of thousands of tiny molecules. So the polymers are generally very large molecules made up of lots and lots of smaller molecules that link together. So the plastic you made is an interesting type of polymer made of chains of casing from milk.
Very cool. Miss Kelly's 2nd class in St. Mary's, Nina, are on the same wavelength as me. They say, Sean, how do you make chocolate milk? It's not from chocolate cows, is it?
Unfortunately, no, there's no chocolate cows.
There are in Switzerland.
I don't think they make chocolate milk though. But you add the flavorings to the milk afterwards, so you just get your milk, and I mean, it's not just chocolate. You can add strawberry and banana, and maybe for some people they don't like the taste of milk and they prefer it with strawberry and banana, and because milk is good for you, it's a good alternative.
Yeah, and you can just blitz it. You can just get milk and just blitz it with that, and you get yourself a little smoothie. Delicious. Antonio, hello from Bala National School in County Roscommon. Hi, guys. What is the difference between pasteurized and homogenized milk? That is a doozy of a question.
Well, that's kind of different thing in the sense that homogenize is just make sure that the natural separation that Sean was talking about between fat and the other parts of the milk doesn't happen, so it gets homogenized. And well, pasteurization, that's the heat treatment process that you do on the milk to make sure it doesn't go off.
So homogenized means making it all the same. Is that right? Like making it all making the milk all the same all the way through. Is that the thing?
Yeah, I would say so. Would you agree with me, Sean? I think that's it, right?
Yeah, more or less it's basically just pushing the milk through a very tight tube to make all the fat inside the milk around the same size and break it up, make it smaller. And when it's smaller, it takes longer to separate out, so you don't get like the old days where you'd get a glass milk bottle with the cream separated on top and the skim on the bottom. Instead, it stays in there. And then also it's some people prefer it because it feels slightly different in the mouth, a nicer, creamier taste.
I don't never had homogenized milk. Well, I'm so old. We used to get glass milk bottles with foil caps on them. And when I used to go down as a kid in my slippers and pajamas to get the milk to have my cereal, the pesky crows would be at it. They peck through the tin foil and they'd be at it because they like the cream at the top. So then I'd have to put my thumb over the hole and I'd shake it and then I'd homogenize it. And I didn't need any of your fancy machines, Sean. We have from presentation primary school from Moy for a fantastic question. Why are a lot of cheeses yellow? Hi guys.
Because there is a yellow molecule in cheese, so that makes cheese yellow. Those molecules are actually in milk, but when it is like when you put white paint into a yellow paint, that will dilute the paint. So you would probably wouldn't see the yellow color in milk, but you will see the color in cheese.
Ah, very interesting. I didn't know that. Hello to Mrs. O'Keefe's second class in Bennett's Bridge in County Kilkenny. Another question from third class Gertine, County Sligo. You're all very welcome. One of my favorite counties. Why is some bacteria good for you? That's for Antonio and Megana. Actually, maybe Megana. Yeah, Megana.
So some bacteria, like I was saying, so there are a few bacteria that have been studied and are known to be good. So the bacteria are good because they can help improve immune system. They have like overall health promoting benefits. And sometimes, you know, when you ingest food, like when you have stuff that is like very fibrous, when you eat very fibrous food, it becomes difficult for us to digest. And when you have bacteria, when you consume fermented foods that, you know, kind of supplement your body with the good bacteria, they help break it down further. And the fibers are broken down by those bacteria and then they are then digested by us. So they, you know, you help get those nutrients from those fibers that you otherwise wouldn't have got without those bacteria. So that's some of the effects. So
I'm going to put my hand up and say I kind of answered that question already in a different way. So sorry about that. So this is another question for you, Megana. From fifth class Condrid in National School at County Cork. How do you make fruity yogurts? Is it the same as chocolate milk?
No, there's no fruity flavor. I mean, there are a few bacteria that they don't actually produce the fruity flavor completely. But what you do is you make regular yogurt, and like to that you basically add in, after the fermentation is done, you usually add in, like you chop up your fruits, or like you add in your extra flavor and then mix it in, and that's how you have your flavored yogurt ready.
Sean, Charlie's a very good brother. He wants to know about his sister's lactose intolerance. She drinks lactose-free milk. How the hell do you make that?
So there's a way of pushing the milk through a very small filter. And when it gets pushed, the lactose, because it's a very small ingredient in the milk, gets stuck to this filter. And then what we do is we recombine the water, because milk is made up of a lot of water, back with the fats and the protein, and then the lactose has been removed.
That's pretty cool. From Miss Hans' class in Carlingford, if the cow eats greener and more lush grass, will the milk be better, Sean?
Well, it's the grass is the most important part of the cow's diet, and obviously that's where it gets all its nutrients. So healthy, fresh pasture grass it would, in theory, make the milk healthier and better for the cow's health too, because it relies so heavily on its grass.
Do you ever give your cows a Mars bar?
I don't think it'd be a good idea,
Even on Halloween?
even on Halloween. I think though they get their
I think that's not very nice, to be honest.
but they get their own treats from different feeds and rations, and they're like everyone. You have to try balance their diet.
Okay. What happens to cheese when you freeze it, Le? That's a good question, because often I have so much cheese in my fridge that I don't know what to do with it.
Well, when you freeze the cheese, the water molecules in cheese will become very little crystals, and the cheese will be very, very hard. And if you wanted to eat it again, you need to put it into the fridge and let it melt.
But it works fine to freeze cheese?
Yes, I think so. And based on my experience, mozzarella cheese will work the same, but I'm not quite sure of other types of cheese like blue cheese or other types of cheese.
I have 3 cheeses in my fridge, and now I'm going to put my 3 cheeses in my freezer. Noreen, how fast does this separator machine spin? So this is from Noreen. This is for Sean. How fast does it go?
I can't remember the exact speed, but it spins really, really fast.
Faster than a playground whirly thing?
Faster than that, yes.
Wow, that's pretty fast. Okay. This is for Le. What cheese do you like the most? Do you prefer cow's or goat's milk?
I like both, but I would prefer cows, because for goats and cheese, probably you need a specific way to cook it, like in a very nice salad. Otherwise, I felt it's a little bit strong for me, the flavor.
Also, cows are more chill, aren't they?
Yeah.
Antonio, how do you predict the expiration date for milk? Do the cows whisper into your ear like July 3rd?
Well, actually, there's something called like a challenge tests that you basically inoculate the milk, or that's usually done for every single type of food product before it's put on the market. So you basically inoculate the food with the type of bad bacteria that you suspect will be growing there, and then you kind of evaluate how much the bacteria is able to grow or multiply during that period, like a certain period of time. And then when it reaches a level or amount of bacteria that is unacceptable, that definitely will make you go sick, then that you say, okay, let's give it a week or whatever time before that, and that's your limit.
Megana, if you use the same milk or the same cheese, whatever you're doing, but you change the bacteria, will that change the type of cheese or the taste of the cheese?
Definitely, yeah. So bacteria, they produce different substances, but they're also characteristic to it. That's why fermentations also, the kind of flavor and the texture you get to the end, they're very typical of the bacteria that are used as their starter culture. So yes, if you put different bacteria in there, you would have a different effect. And you'd also want to put bacteria that are known to be healthy and safe.
And so those bacteria, you said the texture. So when you add bacteria to milk to make a product, it actually changes how it feels in your mouth sometimes when you add bacteria?
Yeah, because when you add, like, even in yogurt, like by texture, I mean, like, because of the bacteria that's added in milk, it will go from liquid to solid state. So it will make a difference.
This is a really good question. This is going to stump you big time, Sean. Do mice really like cheese? That's from Ethan in 2nd class in Holly Park, BNS.
I think because they have such a strong sense of smell, and you have all those different smells coming from cheese. Some people think cheese smells smelly, but I don't think the mice find it smelly. But I do know they love peanut butter too.
They like peanut butter and they like cheese. There's nothing this man doesn't know. So for Antonio, how long does it take for milk to go from the cow to the shop?
Oh, well, I guess that can depend a lot. Here, I would say here in Ireland, it would be pretty fast. But so that's the thing. That's like the importance of the pasteurization that I've been trying to keep repeating. That's because of that time. The time is like the most determinant thing. Like there's two main things with milk going off. One is how many bacteria are there in the milk to begin with, and how long it takes until you actually have it in the shop or actually have it at home. So the time can vary a lot, but usually you get it, I would say, the next day.
Okay. Are there different races in cheddar, Le? Like, what is the difference between white cheddar and red cheddar?
I would say for the same type of cheddar cheese, like for mozzarella, for example, mozzarella type of cheddar cheese. The only difference I think between white and yellow or orange cheddar cheese is the color. So sometimes we put some colorant into cheese to make it look nicer.
Why do they call it red? What's that about? Everybody knows it's orange. I feel like it's a conspiracy.
You can call it red.
But it's not red. They call it red, but it's so not red. It's orange, isn't it? Everybody
Yeah. Well,
is it true that cheese before bed can give you good dreams or maybe even nightmares? Excellent question from Bunskull Voher Nave in Lismore. Hi, guys. Who's a good one for that? Megana. She knows all about this.
I don't not entirely. Yes, they would have an overall health benefit, but that's a very long term, and that would be a very fast benefit to have cheese and immediately have like a good dream or so. No, there wouldn't be like those kind of direct, like you wouldn't have that effect.
You would necessarily, it doesn't necessarily affect anybody have any evidence-based theories on cheese and nightmares and dreams? Sean?
I think there's something to do with meals that have high fat content before you eat them at night and the digestion that affects your sleep. And I think that's one of the reasons why you can get nightmares.
He's like the internet in a person, Sean. He's brilliant. Sean, oh yeah, there's another one for you, Sean. When the milk goes into the lorry at the farm, where's it go next? Good question.
That is an excellent question. So what they normally do is when it goes there, it'll go to a creamery or dairy processor. And what they will do is they'll do a quick test by passing a laser light through it, and they'll get a response and to make sure that the milk is safe and of good quality. And then it will go into a tank and kept at a cool temperature until it needs to be pasteurized or processed into whatever dairy product it's made into.
Le, are there any cheeses that have a completely different process of being made? That's a really interesting question, because we all know there are some products that you can make one way or a different way. When it comes to cheese, have we come up with a different way of making it than the traditional way that you describe in the video?
Well, I think different type of cheese requires different type of processing, which is how you make the cheese. So basically what I describe in the video is how you make cheddar cheese. But if like when you make mozzarella, we have to put the cheese curd into hot water and then knead it to make it very stretchy. And the making of other types of cheese are very different too.
Another question for you, Le. This is from Michelle in Colinamuck. She asks, how long, if you don't eat it while you're testing it, how long can cheese stretch? How long can it go?
To be honest, I don't know, but the mozzarella cheese I tested in my lab goes to 30 centimeters.
Well, the longest cheese string ever was by Carlo Alberto Orecchia of Liechtenstein, and he managed to make a delicious cheese string for 41 inches.
Wow.
That is a long way, isn't it?
That is long.
That, like, if we think 12 inches is one of your rulers at home, folks, that's like a lot of rulers.
Indeed.
Sean, hello from Skull, Angela, Eterlis, Mrs. McGrath's room. Hi, Mrs. McGrath. I bet you're a great teacher. How is protein milk made? Sean asks, for Sean.
So it depends on which type of protein milk you're referring to and the way it's coming in. But like for supplementations, which you might see in shops like Holland Bar, and there's many other ones, it's where they separate out the protein from the milk. With the protein milk, they can pass it through these special filters that concentrate up the proteins and remove certain parts of the milk, and then you'd have a higher protein milk.
Right.
That's just some of the ways.
Very good. One of my faves of cheese is Baby Bell. Love just the task of peeling it open, and it's just like feels like a little present every time you have it. Megana, what's the crack with the wax? Why do they put the wax on it? What's the wax for?
So the wax is basically, it serves two kinds of purposes. One is basically to prevent it from drying out too much on the surface. So that's why there is wax on cheese usually. So like you don't have like a really crusty surface like you don't want. And the other thing is it also helps like other like contamination from outside. So you don't want you don't want overgrowth on the surface. You don't want the bacteria to grow too much as well. So you kind of put the wax to cut off the contact with the outside, and you kind of restricts the environment within, so the bacteria stays the way it is, and the texture of the cheese also stays fresh and nice.
Excellent. Can you mature a cheese synthetically, or does it just have to be done like just by leaving it on the shelf somewhere? Or can you is there a way of faking time, tricking time, and making mature cheese in just a couple of days?
I think it will be very difficult because the mature cheese, the reason why it takes very long time to have a mature cheese is that the bacteria still in cheese can give a very nice flavor, a nice smell, a nice texture in cheese, and this part is very difficult to fake it.
Megana, if you are making butter, how long does it make if you're not like on Twitter or on Instagram half the time? Like if you really just focus?
Well, it could take quite some. It also depends on the equipment you have. Like if you have cream and you want to like whisk it, so are you doing manually or are you using like equipment for it? So it'll depend based on that. I say it would be faster if you actually had a whisker, an electronic one. So
you could do it in minutes, could you?
You could do it fast enough, yes. Until you basically start seeing an effect where you start seeing that, the milk kind of like the cream kind of starts clumping together. That's when the point. It's kind of it depends on your speed and how. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's Iveen or Eveen in 5th and 6th Ballinlough National School in County Meath. Hello, everybody. Do you all enjoy your jobs and why? Give me an answer, but don't make it too long because we've loads of questions to get through. So, Antonio, super fast. Do you enjoy your job and why?
I do enjoy my job, and I really love working with microorganisms. Yeah, I mean, that's as fast as you can get.
Megana?
Yes, I really love my job as well. Like I like what I'm doing. I really like studying the microbes in milk. So,
Sean?
Yeah, I love it because I think it's one of the very rare sciences where that what you make or you experiment, you potentially can eat or see in the shop. Very good. And Le?
Yes, definitely. I love my job because I love food and I love to understand the science behind it.
What are the cheese parties like in Teagasc on Friday evenings? Are they wild or are they pretty reserved, and does everyone wait in their turn to get their cheese, Sean?
The partying's interesting. I suppose you get to see all the food.
Okay, good. We have Sean, a question for you, and this is from Skull Angela Turles, Ms. McGraw's room. I think I said Skull Angela last time. Like I'm very impressed by Angela Merkel. She's one of my idols, so that's probably why. Sean, the question is, how is protein milk made?
So we got asked that before, did we? Where we basically
protein milk, is that different from lactose-free milk?
Well, with the protein milk, it's just again, it's like it depends on what form it comes. But if it's in the shop and in a ready to drink format, they can just basically kind of take off some of it by pushing through membranes or filters,
pushing
and just concentrating up the proteins. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems that all the different types of milks would just cover that off. You just push it through a little tube. So Sean says, when I heat my milk for hot chocolate, how come there's a skim on top? That's from Anya for Sean. I keep saying for Sean. You think I get it now. Sean is the person the question's for, and it's from Anya. Hi, Anya.
I think it's just basically the fats coming to the top and sticking together as you heat it up, and it also as we said, when we're separating milk, we try and make things small if we don't want it separated, but if we do, make them big, and then when they heat, they stick together and just float up to the top because they got bigger.
Someone says, have you ever made cheese wrong and tasted it? That's from Miss Phelan's 4th class, St. Coleman's and National School, Clara Kilkenny. Hi, guys.
Hi. Well, I haven't made any cheese by myself, but it can go wrong, and the cheese can become strange and smelly.
Okay. From again, another question from Miss Phelan's 4th class, St. Coleman's National School, Clara Kilkenny. This is for you again. What happens when you mix hard and stretchy cheese? Will it go stretchy or will it stay hard? Good question.
I guess for hard cheese, you can't make it very stretchy because the protein molecules in hard cheese is not open, and so it cannot be stretched.
Sean, our encyclopedia on cheese, who invented it and what were they at? Like, that's it's when you think about how cheese is made, that's weird. Like, what were they doing?
Well, I don't know who invented it, but I think there's a common belief that back in the old days, to preserve milk so that it would last longer when there was a lack of food during the winter months, they were stored in pouches that had an acid and enzymes in them. They would have been animal kind of pouches made out of animal skin or something, and that they realized then that this did something to the milk.
Gross. So they're just carrying this food around in their pouches, and then they just like, oh, I'll try that.
Yeah, but it
They were
lasts
mad,
very
weren't
long.
they did it like when, like in the early days of making food, like they'd eat rocks and like they'd like try grass, and they'd just try anything, wouldn't they? Crazy guys. From 6th class, Killala in National School, County Mayo, how many types of cheeses are there? Antonio, do you want to answer that? How many are there?
I have no idea. You are only giving me like hard ones. I have no idea.
That's because you were mean earlier when we were met in the lab.
Well, no, there's a lot, and if you then start putting together the cow and the ewes and the goats and the buffalo, like there's so
infinity types of milk.
Yeah,
cheese. Is that right?
Lots. And you can get creative.
I'll give you an easy one. Okay, I'll give you an easy one if that's what you want. I'll give you an easy one. Right? Here's an easy one. This is from Rangaku, St. Mary's Dunmanway. Thank you. What other byproducts can be made from milk? You know that, right?
Oh, I think we covered plenty. Come on.
But what else? What else? So what other byproducts can be made from milk? So like you've got cheese, milk, yogurt. What else can you make?
Cheese, milk, yogurt, butter. There's
Cream.
the other type of cheese that I mentioned to you that you're just using the whey protein. You can actually use, a very common one these days is using the whey protein as a supplement for gym people, and yeah, so that's a famous one now.
Wow. And what about kefir? Is that a dairy product? What's kefir?
It is. It's kind of a funny one because you have an association between bacteria and fungus growing on the milk. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But I think Magana will know plenty of that.
You see, I ask you questions, Antonio, and then you just hand it over to Magana. Like it says, say cheese up here. Like you have to know the cheese questions. I can't give you all the easy ones. I'm only being fair.
No one cares about how does cheese go bad. Like what's wrong with the cheese? What kind of microorganisms?
You can't ask your own questions. That's not how this works. It doesn't work like that. Magana.
I'm prompting people to ask me more questions about that kind of stuff.
Magana, you can tell me all about kefir. Take your time.
So yeah, milk kefir is also like a very common and a very nice, very tasty milk product as well. So what you have over there is grains, essentially, and that's when you have bacteria and you have fungi also that are present in those grains. So you take those grains and then you add it to your milk and then leave it over for like about a day or so, and then you have water, and then you have milk kefir, which is, it tastes a bit like yogurt, but like I'm guessing a lot of people will get tasted. So it has like a slight sour taste, and it's like, but it stays largely liquid. So it's really interesting. It's like a mix between yogurt and like milk.
It's like slime in a bottle. I don't like it. It's like white slime. Does that sound appetizing to anybody? Here, have a big glass of white slime.
There are quite a few people. Yeah.
No, so go ahead, Magana.
Yeah, sorry. And there are a few health benefits that have been like connected to milk kefir. So
What do you think, Antonio?
Oops.
You're muted there. You've just given up, have you? You poor fella. What? No, I can't hear you still.
Oh,
What's
geez.
going on? There you are.
Oh yeah, there I go. No, I was just adding to that it does the association of the microorganisms in there also produce a tiny amount of alcohol in there. So
Okay. Okay, very good. Right, do we have 1 minute left? Oh, we're gone. We're out of time. Wasn't that the best fun you've ever had talking about cheese with some fantastic researchers from Moorepark in Cork? God, I really just love this. I'd love to do this every day. Did you enjoy it, guys?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Antonio's going to be sending me an email later. You didn't ask me any good questions. Guys, we got so many questions from you and we just didn't get to them all, but I hope you enjoyed this. I had so much fun. So I hope you enjoyed today's event. Thanks to all of my guests from Teagasc Moorepark and to all of the Teagasc organizers behind the scenes, because this doesn't just happen. Like, we didn't just say, hey, do you want to Zoom and then invite some people? Like, there's people who work hard putting this together. They are Katrina Boyle, Niamh Dillon, Katie Casey, and Gail Moore, among many others. The event was made possible by Science Foundation Ireland and Teagasc. Thanks to all of our scientists, Sean, Megana, Antonio, and Murrin. And we're going to be featuring all of our videos from the week and the live Zoom recordings on the Teagasc Zoom channel on the Teagasc website. So check that out. Thanks so much for coming today. There's a few more things going on for Science Week. Check out www.scienceweek.ie for them. And we hope we can join us for some more upcoming events at BT Young Scientists in the RDS in January and ESB Science Blast in February. Have a great Friday and a great weekend, and happy Science Week, everybody.